What is going on, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another episode of The Kingdom Says. I am your host, as always, Garrett Williams. Tonight, I am joined by a full barn of characters. We've got Mr. Kyle Henning on the top right of the screen. Kyle, how are we doing tonight, sir?
Doing well. I will be commandeering Garrett's job for the evening, so don't be alarmed when Garrett is not hosting after the initial portion of this video. And I am. That is the strategy here that will be taking place moving forward because somebody hasn't had a chance to do draft prospect research. That would be me. And the other three individuals on this screen have. So we will be me doing the hosty host and them doing the activities.
Kyle, we should just start this off. We should start this off early. You should introduce the other two guests.
Well, we should probably take over then. Also joining us this evening, outside of obviously myself and Garrett, directly underneath me from the caves of the north, or maybe his truck cab where he actually has cell phone signal, is our northern resident, Randy. Randy, how are we doing tonight?
I'm doing awesome. And yes, I am currently residing in the cab of my truck, working on our rental house, and the reception in there is awful. So but I do look better in muted lights, so I've been told. So I think this might be a win-win for everybody. So I'm in full construction gear and dust and paint and everything else. So this is probably better. It's probably better this way. We're gonna
right now. You just look normal, so it's fine.
Hey, all right.
Nobody can see all the other wares you're carrying.
That's right.
And our last panelist for the evening is a furry bearded man we've all come to know and love. Tom, how are we doing this evening, Tom?
I'm doing great. This year's been busy. It's been weird. But the draft is this month. Plans are amping up. And I'll just say this: if this, let's say if we get, I don't know, what's a healthy amount of views for this video, or for, we'll set a goal, and if we hit that goal, I will text Kyle a whole write-up of a prospect every day now until the draft. So
we only got 10 days, so that's it.
Well, then I guess
only 10 days.
Several prospects. Did you not subscribe to my newsletter? I'm kidding. Very excited for this year's. Excited for the process. I don't know how excited I'm the whole, but
we're always excited for the draft, but some draft classes are better than others.
Yeah, this one falls in the others category.
Yeah, it's like Christmas, except this is like the Christmas when, the North American Fair Trade Agreement Act was signed, and then all the factory jobs got sent overseas, and your dad was unemployed for 6 months, and then he finally got another job, but it doesn't pay as well as the factory that he was working at, so then he had to get a second job, and so now he's never around, and your family still makes a decent amount of money, but they were in such a hole from that 6 months that he was unemployed that it feels like it's impossible to catch up, and your mom's stressed all the time, and you're in the fourth age going, what's going to happen next?
So instead, you just get like a box of crackers and a yo-yo for Christmas instead of.
What is this guy talking?
Just a rant.
Just an all-time rant about American history.
Tom is on a roll.
Garrett, I don't know if you were old enough for the NAFTA trade agreement in its initial form and format. I don't know if you were around.
Tom was talking about like the 1700s. This is recent.
No, NAFTA wasn't in the 1700s, okay. But I do appreciate
the way you were talking.
God bless that Arizona public education.
It also helps that Randy that he was like born like 5 years after that.
Well, that's all right. I mean, he probably hasn't got to that part in world history or social studies class in seventh grade.
Yeah, no one ever covers like the 90s. That's not.
No. It's recent enough history that it didn't matter to actually cover in schools when all the next. Yeah, it's fine.
We just learned about Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue and.
Yeah, we could talk about Columbus, but that will end just way more poorly than the little rant Tom.
Yeah, there are a couple things they left out of that story.
It's funny how that works. They neglected to mention some things.
Yeah, what I learned.
We can leave off all the insignificant parts.
It seems like a little bit different than what I learned in school nowadays. Yeah.
Right.
So, let me go ahead and get the reins back on this horse that's now run off and over the cliffs. We are going to be discussing the guys that we are actually looking forward to out of this draft. That's like I said, and Tom mentioned and Randy has mentioned, this draft class, it's a draft class. It's going to have guys in it. Some of them are going to be liked, and most of them are not. It's not exactly what we would call strong.
Still
It's
some good
definitely
value.
not top heavy.
Yeah.
I mean, let me rephrase that. It's extremely top heavy, and then it kind of disappears for a little while, and then you'll have some depth in the mid rounds that will be fine, and then you're going to be throwing darts at a wall from about pick 135 on.
Yeah.
So
It's not a star-studded draft, but there is great depth in areas.
Yeah.
They're just not
premium
they're
positions.
just not the super flashy areas, but it's also, areas
Yeah.
in which we need. So that's kind of
Yeah.
good for us.
Actually
So
does work
it's a
out pretty
deep
well
running
for us.
back class. There's about 40 of them that all have pretty similar layouts.
It's a great defensive line class.
Yep, it's a
Yeah.
fairly deep linebacker group. There's more linebackers in this class than probably the last two classes combined that are going to
Yeah.
make normal snaps on a football field. Just for whatever reason, those two positions the last several years before this draft class have been lackluster. So in those couple of areas, this draft class may actually be better. But in the majority of the areas, it's not. Especially like, I don't know, quarterback play, weaponry is not quite the same caliber as we've seen in years past. So the tackle class sucks. So with all that kind of said, we're gonna get into my guys of this draft class, and for those at home, that could be in any position, and it could be at different points throughout the draft. They're not all going to be first rounders that are my guys. That'll be.
I think we tried particularly to kind of space it out a little bit. Obviously, the kind of the bread and butter of this class is going to be on day 2. It seems like, that second to third round and kind of early fourth round seems like a really, especially for the Chiefs, a good range. So we mixed it up. We tried to get some early guys, some late guys.
We'll get it started. We'll kind of go around and we'll just kind of go in order through this. Kind of start with your highest ranked, your guy you expect to go in the first portion of this draft, my guy, whether that's round 1 or round 2. The Chiefs do have 3 picks in that window, essentially. I know it's technically a third rounder, but it's the first pick in the third round or whatever it is. So, in that kind of those first 70-ish picks to pick from there, and give us at least one guy from that. And we'll start with the guy who's not used to not being the host. We'll start with Garrett.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll start at the top of the draft. First round, obviously, Chiefs always drafting at the end of the first round. There's some interesting first round guys this year. So if you talk about position of need versus kind of the positions of desire, we talked the offensive tackle is obviously a big position of need. I don't know if I'm convinced that the Chiefs are going to draft one in the first round or not. For me, the dream round 1 pairing for a guy who might not even be there at 31, which is kind of troublesome, and a guy you might have to trade up a little bit into the mid 20s for. But he's for a while now kind of been my guy as far as a first round pick. It's going to be Derek Harmon, defensive tackle out of Oregon. He is just a really, really talented player. And I'll tell you, if he makes it to 31 somehow, it's going to be crazy. This is going to be, I'd be very surprised by it. But he's a guy I think you can add in, immediately makes an impact alongside Chris Jones, immediately helps that defensive line. I mean, he's an instant starter, plays all 3 downs. I mean, you do so much with him, I think. The potential for him to be, your defensive tackle of the next 5-10 years is really high. And I really like a lot of what he is as a player. He's a really good pass rusher. He's also really good against the run. Like, he's a really good, complete player. And yeah, if he's in the range, like I said, I think realistically, some mock drafts have him fall into 31 or even outside the round 1. I feel like realistically, you got to trade up to at least like the 24 to 27 range to have a decent shot at him, and kind of also jump a couple other teams that might be defensive tackle needy as well. But we'll see. There's a couple defensive tackles at the top of this class that are going to draw a little more shine to him. I think Derek Harmon is, for me at least, probably the dream pairing in round 1.
Nice. So that gives you guys a kind of a little quick start and an overview of how we're going to kind of do this and what all it's going to entail. So Derek Harmon, he's a fairly decent sized D lineman out of
6'4",
Oregon, correct?
313. Yeah, with 34
Yeah,
and
that's a
3/8 inch arms.
that's a big
so,
boy. That's a
yeah.
big human being.
Ran a 4.95 40. So I mean, that's pretty good.
Sub 5 for 315 pounds is not necessarily a bad thing. Also
Yeah.
played, and I think he played all 4 years at Oregon. Did he not?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he played
Yeah.
at Oregon for a long time. Yeah.
So that's a big thing. A
And
lot of
he's
experience.
not an older prospect. I think he's 21.
Yeah, he's only 21 too. He's going to be 22 by
Oh, he's
week
not one of the
10.
COVID
It's
kids.
weird.
Good.
He's like the typical age of what we used to expect guys coming out of college look like.
You mean not
Exactly,
mid
yeah.
25-year-old?
He's not a 29-year-old 17th year super senior with COVID and injuries, and my pet cat died, and I got an extra year for emotional hardship. Like, give me a break. But yeah, no, he's a typical 4-year, 21, 22-year-old dude.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's
Back
also
in
a
the
good.
olden days, how we used to do it.
Like I
Yeah.
said, that also benefits the NFL teams because they're not paying or drafting a guy and then him being, nearing 30 when he gets to get his first contract. So,
Right.
Exactly.
it's a little harder to pay guys when they're 29 getting that first deal and like, your prime was 2.5 years ago because you spent 3 years of it in college.
Right.
Yeah.
With that said, Tom, let me get your first on the my guy list.
Yeah. So, we talk about my guy or like gems, and there's different like kind of ideas. So I sat down and like what I was thinking about was like this is my Stifler's mom list, and what I mean by that is these are guys that I get so excited about. I would get up and I'd bang on the table for them. So, when we talk about the first round, offensive tackle is a big need. This offensive tackle class is weird. A lot of short arms, a lot of guys who don't look the part, a lot of guys who are good players, maybe not your franchise tackle.
That's one W word you could use for this offensive tackle class. I could give you another. It's 4
Yeah.
letters.
There's one guy who fits the bill. Getting off the bus, in this pass, it's all that. Of course, to with the theme of the class, this guy's coming off a pretty significant injury. So Josh Simmons out of Ohio State. Originally, people talked about it being a torn ACL. I think at the combine, the news kind of became more solidified that it was a torn patellar tendon, which is a more complicated injury. It's very similar to what Lucas Niang had coming out of TCU.
Yeah, it sucks, by the way.
It does, especially for a big guy. So the medicals are big. That said, if you're going to roll the dice on a tackle, he's the guy you're doing it on, in my opinion. There's maybe one other guy on day 2 that like I think could probably be a good starting right tackle, but if we are sitting there and it's early 20s and there's somebody who will trade up with you, do it, and you don't have to give up a whole lot. Do it. Give up. Get up. Get the guy. You have a stopgap tackle on the roster. I think it was reported this week that Simmons is coming in for a top 30 visit. I guarantee you so much that is going to be based on the medicals. That patellar tendon is not the same.
For those that don't know what the patella tendon does, it basically connects your upper leg to your knee and your lower leg. So especially on the front of your leg, your thigh muscle and kind of everything through that connects through to the top where all your knee and stuff is. If you've never had a major knee injury, it's the hardest thing to rehab is that because that's the muscle that A, gets stretched out, B, it is harder to reform the stability because it's a lot larger muscle and a lot larger tendon that does a lot more things. Like the ACL and the MCL and that kind of stuff sucks.
Mm-hmm.
But what it really does is weakens that patellar area, and then you have to try to fix that as somebody who did 6 months of rehab for that specific area of his knee when he dislocated it a few years ago. It's a pain in the ass. It's almost I almost would have preferred it be the ACL or the MCL and not had to deal with what it did to that particular portion of my knee. And for 300 and whatever pound dudes, a lot more wear and tear and strain on that particular portion of the muscle. Now, as Tom mentioned, it's that visit is basically going to be him and Rick having a really get to know you session.
Yeah. Let me feel you. Let me grab you like.
But I don't. The other thing is there's been talk about his football mentality. I don't know if that is any. Obviously, we're not in interview rooms and didn't play with the guy, so it's hard for us to know that stuff. But there's been conversations about the tenacity level needed, or the football level of stuff needed, and whether or not that exists with him. So I don't know. I'm not saying it's not a good idea. I'm just asking. That was more of a question to Tom of like, where does that kind of conversation? And this is I think a good person to talk about it with, because you hear all kinds of crap during draft about prospects that nobody can really confirm. Where does that kind of stuff leave you, Tom?
Again, it's an interesting group. I think it's hard to get that evaluation in full, partially because he got injured so early into his season this year, and it just became a situation where like, you had some tape, you had some stuff like, but it just felt like this was supposed to be that year where he really solidified himself and he took that step forward. Like, we knew he was going to probably be pretty solid. He looked really good. His and even the 6 games he played this year, I think he looked tougher. He looked a little grittier to kind of what you were saying. But then, the injury happened. He's got a very athletic family. Yeah, I think.
Just dawning on me, is he happen to be related to the other Simmons that was a super freak athlete that played linebacker? Isaiah?
No.
No.
No, he is. He's got some family that played baseball. He's a lot of baseball guys.
Not baseball. His uncle played. Oh, his uncle is Chris Fuamatu Ma'afala.
Okay.
I'm glad
Well,
you said.
The thing about Simmons, though, too, is like pre-injury, there was talk of him being O tackle 1 in this draft class. I mean,
Yeah.
so it's really the injury part for me. I still really like him. I don't know if I would trade up for him with the injury, but if he's there at 31, I would be perfectly happy with taking that dude.
It's just
and letting him battle it out with the new guy at left tackle and see what happens. But
yeah.
Well,
It's
and
interesting. I would say it's interesting, Josh Simmons, just because obviously the medical, and it's probably honestly more ideal situation for the Chiefs to draft him because he doesn't have to start right away in case he can't go immediately.
We don't think.
It's just, I don't know, like Randy said, like he before the injury was regarded as like OT1 or OT2 or like at the latest, and it's almost crazy to me that other teams have medical staffs too. So like if he checks out to them, I find it very hard to believe he would fall to 31, being how talented he is, unless there were really serious like medical concerns. And at that point, do you even draft him anyways? I don't know. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll present one thing to that. His name is Trey Smith, and you just paid him. I don't even know how much money.
I was just thinking that. I was just thinking about that too.
I understand the round point of the round is different, but these are
Trey
a lot
was
of
at least still able to go immediately. I mean,
sure. I don't know that he couldn't not. I'm fairly certain by the time the season rolled around, if he had to play, you could play him.
Probably.
I just don't know that if that's what they want to do.
The injury did happen earlier enough in the season, so he's had time to have surgery and heal and rehab and get on the train to recovery a little bit earlier. So I don't think it's going to hamper him. Like he's not going to sit on the shelf till the third quarter of the season.
The only reason I brought Trey up was because that was a guy that no other medical team of any team really wanted to get anywhere close to. Now, obviously, he had some far different issues and some stuff going on that was not your traditional, this guy messed up his leg. Like, I understand that. But as far as an example of the Chiefs medical staff being willing to greenlight guys that other staffs were not interested in greenlighting, We have case studies
That is
on
true.
that.
Yeah,
So,
I have a lot of confidence in Chiefs medical staff for sure in that regard.
Yeah.
So yeah.
even if the NFLPA player survey doesn't, the rest of everyone else
Yeah.
does.
So I want to be clear though, because we talked about the medicals, and this could be like that's hard because it's unknown.
Right. Same kind of thing with his mentality is kind of an unknown because none of us,
I feel like
nobody
overblown.
that does this, that does the evaluations, except for like 2 people, have access to the same kind of information the teams do. Nobody.
So we know that it required surgery. We know that it was a torn patella. Here's a list of guys who have dealt with patellar tendon injuries. Not counting Nakobe Dean because that was in the playoffs last year. Victor Cruz, Jared Mayo, Ryan Williams, who's a running back for the Cardinals, LaCharles Bentley, Cadillac Williams, Jimmy Graham, J.C. Jackson. A lot of these guys, and so
guys.
smaller guys, and then Trent Brown in 2024. Obviously, Trent Brown came back. There's one of Simmons's strengths is that he was so nimble and he was such a good mover, especially in the Chip Kelly offense where it screens and tunnel screens and get out and moves and pins and pulls and counters. His movement will be the big test of what, when they brought him in, I'm certain that they were having him run all around it and get an idea of how he still moves on that knee and making sure that he's not overcompensating, because a lot of times when you have a lower body injury like that, it's really easy to overcompensate and then you end up hurting, something else. So, but that's a lot of time on Josh Simmons.
Yep.
Yeah.
I kind of expected to do that on the beginning portions of these my guys because they're in the top half of the first round or first round.
Lots more of an investment.
Top part of this draft. So not necessarily mad about going longer on the beginning portions of these prospects as some of these guys that we're going to get to later, which are like, hey, this guy'd be a my guy if he was a preferred UDFA or the Mr. Irrelevant pick. So not the end of the world there, Tom. Randy, who's your first my guy off the list here?
When I sent you the little list of guys I was thinking about earlier, the top guy on my list, I don't see any possible way or realm or whatever reason that the Chiefs would draft him. He just happens to be one of my absolute favorite players in this draft. Obviously, I'm a little biased. He played for my alma mater. I'm an O-line coach. He's an O-lineman. He is probably the most versatile offensive lineman in this draft, and that's Gray Zabel. But I'm not going to go into a ton of stuff on him just because I honestly don't see any possibility that he's actually drafted by the Chiefs. So I'm going to switch a little bit, and my guy for pick 31, that could shake up a little bit of stuff and could potentially be there in some way, shape, or form, is Luther Burden. I am a big Luther Burden fan. He did not have the season this year that he had the prior year, but this guy he's a weapon. He's an absolute weapon that a creative offense like Andy Reid has can literally put him anywhere and really give us a wide receiver room that could be just downright scary for anybody. Local kid, Missouri. He's strong. He's fast. He's got great hands. You don't really have to worry about drops. He can play in the slot. He can play outside. I think having Luther Burden with Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice and Hollywood Brown, like that would be a lot for any team to handle at one point. So, that's I kind of changed avenues a little bit from my NDSU buys and Gray Zabel to Luther Burden, but I think it's a little bit more feasible for the Burden pick than for us to draft Gray, even though Gray is arguably probably my number one favorite person in the first round.
It's tough.
And you also don't have to worry about Brady Cook throwing in the ball. It'll be Patrick Mahomes, so that'll help too, I'm sure.
Right.
It's so tough because if the Chiefs had a need at guard instead of tackle this draft, honestly, in my opinion, they still kind of do, but it's just tackle is so much more of a need than guard.
Right. And we have this conversation all the time, and I will die on this hill with this short arm, can't play tackle nonsense. I can hear the snickering already. I can hear it, Kyle. But I know the Chiefs will never draft a tackle that has arms 34 or shorter than 34 inches. But 1 inch, you're telling me 1 inch makes that big of a difference in pass pro? Give me a freaking break. Andy
I'm
Heck
glad
did
you
his
added the
job.
in pass pro because women
But
everywhere
Glad
will
you
tell
did.
you 1 inch makes a difference.
hey,
Um,
that's why we're talking football here. We're talking football.
football, ladies. Come on.
But Gray can literally play every single position on the offensive line at a high level.
Yeah.
So he can play tackle. He has played tackle. He's an All-American left tackle.
He might be a tackle for a team too. The
I
problem
also
with Andy
hate to
Reid
break this to you,
really
but how
likes,
about 2 inches? Because he has 32-inch arms, not 34.
yeah, and the problem with Andy Reid, the reason why he likes longer tackles is probably just because how they pass set, a lot more vertical pass sets, kind of a lot just different style. Obviously, I think Gray's able could be a good tackle for some team, but it's just fortunately he wouldn't be a tackle in the Chiefs, and I don't think they would spend a first round pick on a guard. So, but Luther Burden, I'll tell you, Luther Burden
for a guy who was he looks as himself as like the next Joe Tooney type mold of player. That's who he tries to emulate in his game.
exactly who
I
he is.
absolutely see it. I absolutely see it.
Sure. That would
Luther
be fine if
Burden,
they would have just kept Kingsley as a tackle and actually developed him, and then they
Yeah, and
would
that's
have
the
a
thing
spot
too.
at
Like
guard.
I in my brain, I have not given up on Kingsley playing tackle. I
Well,
think the
unfortunately, I
Chiefs
think
gave
Andy
up
Heck
on him
has.
too early.
So.
But that's just me.
might see something different after the draft if they don't get top tackle.
So
We'll see.
we shall see how that whole story progresses. I am very much in Randy's camp on that they shouldn't have bailed on Kingsley. We've talked about that 1,000 times. Andy Heck has been discussed way too much on this damn podcast. With that said, we're gonna change up the order a little bit here so we don't get stagnant and get too much into a rhythm. Tom, who is your second my guy on this list?
Ooh, you're going to be next. All right.
Don't you take my guy. Don't you? We had an agreement. Don't take my guy.
I won't. This is one we've mentioned before.
Okay.
And in some ways, he's not getting like. I understand why he doesn't get the buzz, but he's not getting like hardly any buzz, and it's just surprising because of the quality of the play that he had. He played a game and a half last year. If you turn back the tape the year before, Kevin Winston Jr. out of Penn State is one of my favorite players to watch. Was a safety. In his 84 career tackles at the collegiate level, tackles, he's only missed two missed tackles in 84 attempts. 6'1 and a half, 213 pounds, is recovering from a partially torn ACL last year. Did not work out at the combine, but did run at his pro day. So at his pro day, he ran a 4.51, but his 10-yard split was a 1.51, which is better than Nick Manwarai, who was everybody was freaking out about his athletic testing. 9 3/8 inch hands, like measurables are there. Loves to hit, loves to tackle. Really, really, like closes on the ball well. Just so much fun to watch. Like, if you're talking about a guy who, Justin Reed was kind of this enforcer type in our secondary. If you want somebody who can, emulate that or grow into that role, I think Winston Jr. is a big part of it. This is one thing that stood out. Just so you guys know, we're going to probably reference a lot of information from Dane Brugler's The Beast through The Athletic. Love what Dane does.
The GOAT.
Encourage you to support that project. So he was voted a team captain in 2024, which is when he tore his ACL, and remained on the sideline for every home game despite the season-ending injury. His former Penn State coordinator or defensive coordinator Tom Allen said he sets high standards and elevates everyone around him. So you have a kid who loves to hit, who's good at it, good athlete, good size, high character player. I understand that's a small sample size, and I get the concerns. Maybe not the most instinctive or the most natural in coverage, but I think that he's got like some of that is just an experience thing, in my opinion. I see a player who can get there.
Well, the Chiefs
And
don't believe in having safeties be able to cover anyone anyway, so what does it matter with that aspect?
yeah, but most of all, a couple of those games last year when we were just screaming at people to tackle, you remedy that pretty quickly with a guy like Kevin Winston Jr. So
Okay.
that's one. Again, Stifler's mom. I'll pound on the table for it.
All right, Garrett.
Yeah, for my second guy here, first off, actually, before I get to my second guy, I want to highlight another first round guy that the Chiefs aren't going to draft, obviously, because we have quarterback Patrick Mahomes, so we're all good. But I'm going to highlight Jackson Dart as my QB1 of this class. I'm not going to pound the table here. I'm just saying Jackson Dart, I think, is a dog. He was a dog when he was at USC. Lincoln Riley drove his ass out of town. Didn't like that. Whatever team drafts Jackson Dart, what? Was that, Kyle?
Spicy.
Jackson Dart. I'm telling you, I think he'll end up being. Also, he's fortunate enough that he'll probably be drafted
He's
outside of
my
the top
QB 2.
10.
He's my
Yeah,
2.
yeah. Like he'll probably he's not. He'll probably get drafted into hopefully a decent situation like the Steelers or maybe the Saints. I don't know. And I think he'll be a baller. So I just want to get that out there because I like Jackson Dart a lot. My number 2 guy I'm going to highlight for the Chiefs. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with Jalen Noel. I'm gonna go with Jalen Noel out of Iowa State. One of 2 of Iowa State's really good receivers in this year's draft. Jalen Noel, to me, is exactly the type of guy that I think the Chiefs would like. Obviously, he's a smaller guy. He's a real quick guy, real sure-handed, has a really good route tree, just an overall really dynamic player. It's going to be interesting to see how the NFL evaluates him because I mean Dane Brugler has him as wide receiver 5 in the class, so that's pretty high praise from him. Um, I don't know. I think he's going to be a really talented, sure-handed guy. Like he's going to be a really reliable option for whatever team drafts him. I think the complement to him and Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice, I think would be a pretty decent offense. Like I think that would be very productive, and I think he can be a really productive option for you for many times, for many years to come. He's a really fun player to watch. I think he's got a lot of versatility. He can do some of that McCole Hardman type stuff that they've obviously liked doing for a little while. Just really dynamic player. There was a little bit of rumors that he might sneak into the round 1, which would be a little rich for my blood. But I mean, if you had to have it, like if the board was not looking hot at 31 for the Chiefs, and he had to make a little bit of a reach, I wouldn't be too mad about Jalen Noel. Realistically, I think he's probably like a top 40, top 45 guy. If the Chiefs wanted to do like a trade back situation, which I wouldn't mind, of trading back 31 into like the mid to late 30s, and then you maybe take one of your seconds and move up, so you have like a late 30s and a late 40s pick. I don't know, or a mid 50s pick, something in that range. But Jalen Noel, I think, is a really talented receiver who, if you pair him up with the right offense and the right combo, I think he's going to have a really productive NFL career.
Well,
Yeah,
and if you
I really like Jalen Noel. He's a little bit more dynamic, but it gives me Tyler Lockett vibes. Like
Mm-hmm.
great hands, great route runner. He's a little bit more explosive. He might be a little bit, I hate that term sneaky athletic because I mean
Yeah.
all these dudes are athletic. So let's not get that twisted by any stretch. But I think I think he could be a really dependable, really good wide receiver. And yeah, I mean Iowa State had 2 wide receivers last year that were awesome. I'm a big Jayden Higgins fan too. So
Well, and I mean, if the Chiefs and Travis ever decide to take a spinoff and do a Christmas album like Jason and the Eagles do, you got a easy name tie-in for the song. So Noel, right? Randy, who is your next guy on the my guy list?
yeah, my round 2, my number 2 guy, is a definite position of maybe not necessarily need, but we need an upgrade and more depth in that room, and that is a guy that Tom turned me on to a little bit about midway through last season. And he's a screaming demon off the edge. He's an Arizona Razorback, and that's Landon Jackson. Um, Tom and I are both huge Landon Jackson fans. I mean, I know we have FAU and we got Omenihu back this year on a 1-year deal. We're still waiting for FAU to develop, which he's taken some steps. But we need someone to bookend with Furious George, and Landon Jackson to me is just an absolute demon on the edge. He is built to Spags prototypical edge body type. He is tall, he is big, he's explosive, he's strong, he's fast, and he's mean. And the dude has a motor that just doesn't quit. And for me as an edge player, that is huge because you make a ton of plays that can really swing a game by chasing stuff down on the back end. So um, I think Landon Jackson. I don't know if he would. I I don't have a good feeling he'd be around at 63. He's one of those probably in that 40 to 50 range type guys. So if we really, really wanted him, we might have to move up a little bit. But man, I think the future of the defensive ends on our defense would be fantastic with Fierce George and Landon Jackson bookending that defensive line.
All right, Tom, anything to add since you're a large fan of the same human as well?
I love Landon Jackson. I'll say this: Shamar Stewart for Texas A&M blew up the combine and was this big deal. You look at Landon Jackson's numbers next to Shamar Stewart's numbers, and Landon Jackson, like Shamar Stewart, was just a freak of nature, but Landon Jackson was right behind him. Had everyone made a big deal. Shamar Stewart got the 41-inch vertical. Well, Landon Jackson was 40 and a half.
And he's a bigger human being.
Yeah. I want to make sure I'm saying the right. Yeah. A 4.59, 4-yard dash. Okay, that's really good. 4.68 for Jackson, but 10-yard splits are good. Broad jump, same thing. 10.11, 10.9. This guy is, one, more productive, and two, showed that he's a good athlete. Like more athletic than I thought. And so I already liked him going into that, but then I feel like, again, it's one of those situations where a couple years from now we're gonna be talking about, like, how did this guy get overlooked, or how did we draft this guy over this guy? Like,
Yeah.
This is the example of, here's a productive player who tested really well, who's just in a class with a lot of athletic freaks, and I think he's being slept on because of that. But also, high character kid, has worked really hard.
Huge alopecia spokesman. You see, he deals with that affliction. Yep. So
yeah. There's been a couple. Yeah, he's done a lot of advocacy. He's met with other, like, children and stuff in the area, and kind of helped them understand, and yeah.
That is a very chief trait.
Yeah, he is. He's just a fun player to watch. Just a good football player. And in this draft class, you want good football players.
All right. Garrett, let's get our third my guy going here.
Oh boy, the third guy. I guess I'm gonna go with this guy. So this guy I've been pretty high on throughout most of the draft process. As far as an answer to the Chiefs' tackle problem, it's going to be Ariante Ursary out of Minnesota. I was a lot higher on him early on the process, as I've kind of faded a little bit. I think as the general consensus has kind of faded a little bit on him. Still a really good player. I feel like he might have a similar trajectory like Kingsley did last year, where some people were kind of mocking him to the Chiefs in the first, and he ended up falling all the way to the second, where we were able to grab him. But he's got the size that you would want. He's a local. He was born in Kansas City, Missouri, which is pretty cool. So he's a local hometown guy. He's 6'6", 330 with 33 and 1/2 inch arms. So it's a little low still by Chiefs standards. They could, that one might clear, but I think he's got a real physical sense to him. I think he's a pretty decent pass protector. I think it's one of those things development wise. If you're going to develop a guy, I think he's got a lot of traits that you would like to see in a productive left tackle for you for multiple years. Also could potentially swing over to right tackle in a year after Jawan leaves. Who knows? It'll be interesting to see once again where he gets drafted at. I think value wise, if you can get him at the end of the second or even that early third round pick that we have, I think it's a decent option. It's not the greatest though. I'll say it's not like we referenced at the top of this, like the tackle class isn't great. It's a tough year to need a tackle for the Chiefs, and there's not a lot of guys who really fit the criteria that they look for as far as all the different requirements. But to me, he's still a really good tackle. I think he'd be a really good player for us. Not the most immediate, not like Josh Simmons, where he'd be as polished of a starter right away, but I think he's got a lot of tangibles that would make him a really good tackle for us if we could develop him properly. Which is obviously, we've talked, we know how that's gone the past few years. But I still think, even as like a base guy, if you draft him in the second, I think he'd come in and do better than Kingsley did in his first couple starts. But we'll see. We'll see if the half-inch short arms tear the Chiefs away from him or not. Because I can easily see another team, swooping him up. That's more of like a power team. That's similar to like the Ravens. He's kind of like an Orlando Brown Jr. to me, except a little bit less lengthy, but kind of has that same vibe where it's like I feel like he could. It's if you want to roll with that style of tackle out there, I think you could get away with it.
All right, that works. That gives us another option at tackle. I think it's interesting that you mentioned the tackle class. We talked about it being weak, or Tom said weird. I would say weak or whack or whichever other W 4-letter word you want to use.
That's what I thought you were whack.
Well, both crossed my mind. It's also why the Chiefs went out and the first 5 seconds of free agency signed a left tackle. I think that's something to note. They went ahead and he's at least played football in the NFL, and largely people think he wasn't getting the opportunity to play more because he was behind future first ballot Hall of Famer in San Francisco. So that'll negate some of your ability to start when the guy in front of you is
all
Trent
world.
Williams. So that said, Randy, who is your next on the My Guy chart?
So this might make it sound that I'm a little bit more of a bigger fan of the of Iowa State than I actually am. But I'm gonna go with the tall, incredibly fast, athletic, ball hawking stud Darian Porter. We had at times last year, we have Trent, who was awesome. When Jalen went down, we really, really struggled with a legitimate number two to come in behind him. We saw Najee Johnson fail a lot. We saw Josh Williams fail a lot. Darian Porter is an outside long. He's 6'2", almost 6'3", just shy of 200 pounds. Ran a 4.38. He is just long, athletic, super fun to watch. And I think he really shores up an area to where that third corner on our roster right now is no longer sends panic down your spine when you see him walk on the football field. So
Sir,
yeah,
we have to
I'm
discuss.
big fan, and I think there is absolutely like that 63, 66 range is perfect for Darian Porter. I think where we don't really going to have to move up or worry about him not being there at that point.
He only has one major drawback when it comes to being a Chiefs corner. He was born and raised and played college ball north of the Mason-Dixon line, and that is not acceptable unless your name is Trey McDuffie. So
that does seem to be a trend. Yeah.
Wasn't Trey McDuffie born?
I don't remember where he was born. I just know he played college ball in Washington.
Yep.
I think he gets in on the
Does he
I
get in on
know
first place?
Ames, Iowa is not a great destination and is never really thought of as a powerhouse or a factory of football studs, but Iowa State had a few dudes running around on the football field.
They've been better the last
so.
few years. That program has definitely been on the uptick as far as talent and levels are concerned, and
for sure.
While defense is still an optional thing in the Big 12, it's some of the players themselves are good, while the programs themselves on that side of the ball aren't as good. But yeah, just to keep in mind, if you're not south of the Mason-Dixon, either born or played south of the Mason-Dixon line as a youngin, they don't traditionally go that route. But skills and fit do matter, and I'm just giving Randy a hard time mostly on that one. So, Tom, did you find Trent's birthplace?
He's California, so he does. He
is the exception to the rule so far. Gotcha.
So
Trent was Matter Day, I think, right?
Yeah, that's what I thought too, but I couldn't remember if he was born in California or if he just transferred out there to play at
And
modern day.
I honestly I don't know where Darian Porter was born.
Iowa.
Oh no, sorry, Saint John Bosco. Still
He
another.
played high school ball in Iowa as well, so I don't. There wasn't a birthplace listed, but the high school ball and the college ball both in Iowa. So,
Yeah, well,
that said, let's see. Are we? Tom, have you given us your third yet?
I have
nope.
not.
So it is you. That's what I thought. I thought I
Please.
had that right. That you were my next up on the
Yeah.
wraparounds.
So I am in agreement with some of this. So I'm sensing a theme in positions. All right. My third guy, defensive tackle, Alfred Collins out of Texas. I
Interesting.
think he's a unique athlete. He was kind of buried behind Tavondre Sweat and, oh goodness, the other giant kid.
Brian Young
Not Brian Young, the other Texas kid that was there forever. Byron Murphy.
or Murphy,
Uh,
that's what I meant. Sorry.
yes, Murphy, not Young. So,
So
but got
Brian
some
Young
snaps
is much older. I don't think.
Yeah, I
in.
meant Murphy. My bad.
Yeah, got some snaps in as a rotational player last year. Has been playing, all 3 years, but he's an interesting guy because he's big, and he has like you see flashes where you're like, wow, this guy could really be like a complete defensive tackle. Like you could he gives you a little bit of pass rush at times, but what I love about him is that he is just able to just like sit and two gap you. They lined him up um, in a couple of different places on that defensive front. Like they had him actually going, they had him out wide and stuff. He's a defensive tackle. Specifically, he's a nose tackle. His pass rush grade is at its best when he's in a zero technique. So when he's head up over the center, that's where he's thriving. You don't get that a lot. Same thing when you put him in the A gaps on either side of the center. Um, his like the closer he is to the football in the middle, his pass rush grade goes up. But more than that, he's got grown man strength. I've watched him, move some Georgia offensive linemen, just move them. And there's a couple other times where it's not all put together mentally, it's not all put together instinctually for him, but the skill set and like, you think about putting him next to a guy. Well, one, the Chiefs have a great defensive coaching staff, Joe Colin would certainly get him right. There's things about okay, he's 6'6", 330 something pounds, right? So he's a big guy. Worry about him playing high. I think you would get just so much out of him in the system. I think you get a true nose tackle next to um, Chris Jones, but also like not a nose tackle in the sense of like Derek Nottie was. Like he's going to offer you some more juice and some more flexibility and some pass rush. So when Chris Jones moves out to edge, you can play Collins, in more of a three tech or in that kind of 3-eye alignment to create some different looks. So really, really talented high school football player, but also a high school basketball player. Um, you know, shout out to Colin Saunders. If you miss having a big athletic defensive tackle on the roster, he's not Colin Saunders, but he is Alfred Collins. And there's
There we go. So
Collins.
now that we have reached the roughly halfway point of our regularly scheduled programming, I'd like to interrupt this time to spend a couple minutes telling you to join our friends over at Underdog. Make sure to use the promo code Kingdom Says when you do. We are rapidly approaching the NHL playoffs, the NBA play-in and playoffs. Royals baseball is in full swing. Well, their offense isn't in full swing, but they're playing games. So if you would like to get involved in any of that, head over to our friends at Underdog. There are daily contests. There are obviously the normal pick'em, high-low, higher or lower options over there for your batters, pitchers, all those things during that, goals and points and all kinds of different things in the NHL. NBA has a bunch of stuff too. They're running a bunch of different kind of promotions for all those things right now. So in the off season, when you're trying to maybe increase that account balance for when the NFL season hits, hop over there, get the discounts, get the bonus money that they're giving away for signing up with the codes. and then get yourself rolling. That way, when football season comes back around, you've got everything you need to make it a nice little season for you. So check out our friends at Underdog. Make sure you use the code Kingdom Says. And with that, we shall return to our regularly scheduled programming. Now, I'm going to jump in here with my guy of this entire draft, really.
Woo, Kyle.
This will come as no surprise to anybody that knows me. He's a Notre Dame kid.
Guy. Oh, it is.
Xavier Watts.
Yeah.
He's a football player, guys, at the truest and purest form. We talk about leadership. You talk about ball skills. You talk about he's a safety, but I think he could probably play that light safety in the box linebacker at any given point when you want to run that kind of those package options as the third safety on the field. He's got coverage skills.
Shamari Connor role.
You can ask Garrett about his ball skills. USC found that out the hard way. Don't throw it at him down by the goal line, or he'll take it to the house on you for a tutty. That results in pick sixes. So don't sleep on Xavier Watts. His athletic profile is not going to break the charts. He's a little bit smaller. He's only like 5'11 and a half or something. He ran like a 4.5. You're not drafting him because he's a break your screen from an athletic perspective, but he's one of the smarter guys that I've watched play. He also, not just from an understanding the scheme thing, but understanding football as it moves on the field, his ability to adjust even mid-play sometimes to make plays on the ball. It's one of those innate things you watch after you watch a kid for several seasons that I've watched him develop into. And in that late second, probably more like early third to the last third round pick, I think is where he'll probably find himself, is in that mid to late third round. If you can add another depth piece to a young safety room who's also a leader and also a very extremely smart mentally, he's going to do nothing but help your room. And I think with Mike Edwards being there, he would pick up extremely quick on everything that Mike and the coaching staff, whether that be Merritt or Spags, is teaching, and would just add another dynamic to that group. And like Randy said, Shamari Connor type role, but without some of maybe the deficiencies you've seen with Shamari Connor playing that role. He's a little better in coverage, I think personally, than Shamari is at that point.
And kids at Notre Dame are typically a little smarter than Vatek, so.
And it happens. If you're unfamiliar, the entry requirements to just get into that building are a little higher than most places. It's one of the things that's held them back over the years from maybe accumulating some of the talent other places has had. Although, shout out Marcus Freeman, he seems to have eclipsed that little barrier that a certain Kelly brother couldn't figure out how to get past. So, that all said, Xavier Watts is my guy for this draft class. I really wanted Kyle Hamilton a couple years ago, and lo and behold, that kid's pretty good at football. Who would have thunk it?
Right?
He's not Kyle Hamilton, but he's extremely good. The only other guy I would mention that I don't know if he'll be available at any point in time when the Chiefs are drafting him, and he also doesn't fit the south of the Mason-Dixon line mold, is Benjamin Morrison, the corner. He missed all of last season, basically. Notre Dame, sir.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He missed all of last season with an injury, but he is
very good football player.
Had he not gotten hurt, you'd be talking about him as the best cornerback coming out of this draft. And I don't have any qualms or concerns. If you go back to not this last year's Ohio State game, but the year prior, he put a blanket on Marvin Harrison Jr. Him and Marvin, it was a battle. Two extremely talented players. Benjamin Morrison is no slouch, but I don't think the Chiefs are going to get anywhere close to being able to draft him. So he's not really on. It's kind of one of those, I would love him to play corner for this team, but I don't think they're ever going to get a shot at drafting because I think he's gone in the 40s.
Our only chance at drafting Morrison would be to take him at 31.
Yeah, I think he's gone in the early 40s at the latest, and unless they take him,
I'd be surprised if he makes it that long.
Yeah, he's damn good. He fast, physical, tackles, extremely good in coverage, ball skill. Like, he is if he had not been out all of last season, A, they might have won the Natty, and B, he may have been coming out as the number one corner in this draft class. So, but Xavier Watts is my main guy because I do actually think they have a chance if they want to get him in that third round range, they could do it. So,
yeah.
That said, we will now let Randy go first on guy number 4.
Guy number 4. I'm gonna stick with the same defensive position that Tom just talked about when he was talking about athletic defensive tackles, and I am going to go with a stalwart of somebody who's trying to bring back the black shirts down in Nebraska, and that's Ty Robinson. Huge Ty Robinson fan. For an interior defensive lineman, he is, here we go again, sneaky athletic, but a big, fast, strong, athletic guy that can play really essentially anywhere across the defensive line. I think he's probably best suited as a 3-tech, but team captain, just one of those dudes who brings his lunch pail, and he is going to work his ass off. And as a bigger, as a interior defensive lineman, his motor, again, is one of those things that I always look at when it comes to defensive linemen. It does not stop. If you watch any film on him, you will see him chasing things down from the backside on a regular basis. Like, there is absolutely no quit in that kid whatsoever. But like I said, team captain, great human being, just brings a lot of tools for an interior defensive lineman. And I think pairing him up with Chris Jones would be phenomenal. He's gonna pick up some tricks from the trade from Chris, and I think he's a legitimate. He'll be there. I think that 130. What are we? 132, 133.
Something like that. 133, I think.
I think he's absolutely probably still there at that point, and if we can get a guy like Ty Robinson at that point, would be phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
It's funny, sneaky athletic is one of two things. They're either a white skill position player on either side of the football, or they're a very large human on the interior on the line. That's one of the two. It's basically always those two
It's the
things.
prerequisite for it. Yeah.
Never anything else. When you say sneaky athletic, they're either a very large human on the line in the lineman side of the categories, or they're a white dude that plays skill position.
Yeah, I'll have to have Tom pull up some numbers for me because I'm on my phone in my truck and don't have access to that. But he put up some really good numbers at the combine for a guy his size playing the interior defensive line. So if Tom could be my research guy, and give me
man in the chair.
My main question
some
is,
analysis there that can kind of help back up my sneaky athletic.
did we
claim.
have any wardrobe malfunctions while running the 40? Was he a wardrobe
No.
malfunction 40 guy?
No. Big white guy, so don't worry about it.
You want to zoom in. Again, those inches matter, people. Those inches matter.
Remember that 1 inch, 2 inch, does it matter conversation from earlier? Yeah,
applies there too. So 6'5", 288, 32 and a quarter arms, 10-inch hands, a 4.83 40-yard dash, which was fast for a guy that size. 1.71 10-yard split. Vertical and broad jump were fine, 33 and a half, and then 9 feet 11 inches for the broad. 7.58 recon, and then 20 reps on the bench press. So yeah, definitely a big, a nice showing for Mr. Robinson.
He did well for himself at the combine, which may push him a little bit ahead of that 133 spots, but I definitely think he'd be available at that spot.
Nice.
Yeah, and he's a Nebraska kid. You know you're getting him. He's going to come and work every day and just,
Matt Rule may not have been able to coach in the NFL, but he can coach college kids. So.
Yeah.
That is true.
All right. Next up for our fourth My Guy of the section, we are going to go back to Tom, who is just doing research for us. Where are you at, Tom? Who's your guy number 4 on this list?
I'm actually, I literally am watching his highlights right now. All right. This is a pick that is co-sponsored by Randy. This is one of my favorite picks from the draft. If you told me the Chiefs could come away with one offensive player, one skill position player from this draft, I think it would be this guy. This would be my pick. Caleb Johnson, running back out of Iowa State. Listen, there's a lot of people, and I get it. There's talk about like zone run, all that stuff. Didn't run the fastest 40 time. GPS data shows that he's plenty fast. He may not be the home run, hitter or whatever necessarily.
How many opportunities do you really get in a game to do that?
That's true.
I don't know. Ask Jamal Charles. Anyway, sorry.
And here's the thing. I think
he's a different beast.
He's got enough speed that he might get caught by a handful of guys here or there. Like, and I know it's a big difference in the NFL, but like he's got enough speed. He's not slow. There are some other backs in this class that I'm like, I don't know about that. The other thing is like he's a big guy, so his strides are long. Like he covers a lot of ground really fast, and that's what I love about him. Like he sees it and he's gone. Um, and part of that is the zone scheme. Part of that is just instinct for him. I think he's got more wiggle than people give him credit for. I think he doesn't. He's not a make you miss kind of guy. He's gonna be that guy who like kind of still initiates that contract and just like he has this approach to his angles when there's a tackler like he just we talk about angles as a defender where you're in pursuit. Um, he just always is like messing with the angles, always trying to make that so that the defender is just a little bit off, so that he's a chance to make that instead of a tackle, it's just kind of a glancing blow, and he's still picking up yards.
If you can make defenders take bad angles, it doesn't really matter how fast. I mean, you still have to be fast enough, but if you can make the guy make a mistake on his angle because you're faster than he thinks you are, that's a big thing.
And part of those his ability to create those angles too is probably one of the things I love most about him is that with the zone running scheme that Iowa uses, he has great patience and vision and the ability to absorb hits and still bounce off and maintain balance. So
yep, and that's what it's like. It's like what he's gonna do is he's gonna run like he's gonna cut back towards you almost when you don't expect it, and you're gonna square up on one of his side. And you're not even gonna be squared up. You're gonna glance off his thigh pad, and he's gonna keep running through you. So and it's not the traditional like lower your shoulder pads kind of tough running, yeah. But it's smart running, and that's the biggest thing is I think he's got all the athleticism you need. But I think the way he sees the field, and I think the way he moves through the garbage and the traffic on the field, it's if 3 or 4 years from now we're talking about Caleb Johnson as the best guy in this class, like the best pro, I wouldn't be surprised. And I understand that Ashton Genty and there's some other guys in this class that are really good, but I think Caleb Johnson could be special.
So here's my question / concern. He went to where?
Iowa.
Right. So they haven't thrown a pass since 1987.
Yeah.
Can he pass block? Because
pretty good.
That's one thing that Iowa is well known for is that their offensive linemen, their running backs, and their tight ends are great blockers.
Yeah. How would we know? Because they never ask their running backs to block a soul because
it's part
they don't
of their
throw
DNA.
Pass.
You have to have that in your DNA to play for Iowa.
Yeah, that's some Hawkeye stuff.
All right. I just get a little skeptical and concerned when he's probably been asked to pass block 7 times in 4 years of Iowa football. So
I will say at 6'1", 224.
He can figure out how to pass block.
Will be okay.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before on this show. Pass blocking is a want, not a can. If you want to do it, you will do it for the most part.
He played at Iowa.
Unless you're literally just 90 pounds and can't stop a guy running you over.
Yeah. So Dane said, held up well when asked to pass protect, should continue to get better.
Okay. All right.
Dane has him as running back 3 in the class, which is pretty.
All right.
He's also my running back
I get a little apprehensive, especially with this running back class. A lot of them are not efficient or quality pass blockers. And
there aren't a lot of college football or college running backs that are great at it. That's obviously it's
kind of
which is the problem when the Chiefs are looking for running backs.
But
that's why the only reason I asked the question is because Kansas City notorious for forgetting that the run game exists and using them only as passing options and pass protectors.
Right.
Yeah, you gotta be careful about that.
Yeah. With that said, Garrett, who is our fourth my guy in your ledger here?
Yes, I'm going to go back down south to Texas because Texas, the program, the past couple of years has been a solid program, I feel like, the past few years. They've had a lot of really good prospects. And I'm going to go with Andrew Mukaba, safety out of Texas.
I did not see that coming from you.
Yeah, super fun player. Now, listen, he's undersized, right? He's kind of reminds me if Trent McDuffie was an actual safety. Like if Trent McDuffie played safety as a youngin and grew up playing, like if he was, I feel like that would be kind of the mold. He's a super dynamic athlete. He's really fluid. He's got really good movement. He's a really willing tackler. He's really like he fits the mold of a Chiefs defensive back really well. Like he's a solid tackler. He's a really good player. You know, he's only like I said, he's 5'11", 186, so he's a little undersized, right, for a safety. He's more of kind of like a Juan Thornhill, like center fielder, like free safety. Really good in coverage. Like definitely a guy. I mean, he can hit. Like obviously, like he's definitely willing to tackle, but really good coverage guy. He played at Clemson for his first 3 years, kind of more of a nickel when he was at Clemson, and transferred over to Texas and played more of like a true free safety role, and excelled a lot more at that. I think his like natural ball hawk instincts kind of fit well at safety as opposed to like in the nickel. But he has experience in it. He has some slot experiences, which is always nice in the versatility aspect for the Chiefs. Also born in Zimbabwe, kind of a interesting. Born in Zimbabwe, moved to Texas when he was 8 years old. So kind of an interesting prospect. Really wanted to sign with Texas when he was coming out of high school, but he thought that the coaching staff would be fired by the end of that time, and they were, and so he transferred his senior season and had a really good year. So he's kind of like a late round 3, round 4-ish type of guy, mostly probably because of his size and just how he kind of projects in the NFL. But tape alone, like I feel like it's gonna be a similar to like Jaden Hicks situation where like he's gonna drop and it's gonna be a big steal for whoever gets him in the 3rd or 4th round, because I think he has one of the best tapes out of any safety in this class. So really fun player, just really dynamic, and I'll be really intrigued to see how Steve Spagnuolo uses him, especially with all the different versatility and hybrid safety corners that we have already. Like it seems like he might fit in pretty well in that.
He is a little lighter than I expected for a safety. He's 20 pounds lighter than Xavier
Yeah,
Watts.
you wouldn't look. I mean, he doesn't really look the part though.
Same height, but
Yeah,
little
when
lighter in the
when he
pants.
goes out there, he doesn't look like he's an undersized guy. You know, he makes. I mean, he hangs with the big boys. You know, he's at Texas too. Like that's so he's a good player. He's a really good player.
He's not Bob Sanders little, but he's not big.
Yeah, exactly. There's levels to that stuff, and in today's NFL, I think the coverage strengths and are a lot better than are worth taking the risk on, I should say. Like I would definitely take him just to be another really good cover option in the secondary.
Now you put his skill set in a guy that's 6'6'1". We're talking a whole different rounded possibility with this guy.
Yeah,
He's got the ability. He just happens to be a little bit undersized, and that's not his fault. But
it'd be like that sometimes.
Still a really good football player. But yeah, that's a nice pick from you, Garrett. You kind of surprised me there, attaboy.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give you the attaboy there.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Texas has some good players. I like a lot of players out of Texas. So obviously Xavier
There's just not like too many other wide receivers in this draft class, shall we? Anyway,
Matthew
if you're not familiar, you can Google what
the other one.
You can Google what happened with a certain Texas wide receiver.
Matthew
if you
Golden,
need to.
Matthew Golden's on my short list of guys that weren't gonna be in the Chiefs' range, but I like him a lot as well.
Yeah, Tom, guy number 5. Make it count.
You caught me. I was scrolling way down. So this guy I've liked throughout the process, and then his stock cooled off after testing. Currently 20 years old. He'll be 21 years old his rookie season. Azariah Thomas, cornerback from Florida State.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. There wasn't a lot to like about Florida State last year. It was painful to try to watch any of them play football. This is a guy who, I love that he's from Niceville, Florida. Has had a interesting life, and has been through some stuff, but 6'1.5", 196 pounds, 10-inch hands for a corner. That's ridiculous. 32.5-inch arms. Again, long arms. He's tall. He's a little high hipped. He's a little struggling at times. I think he tackles well. I think he tackles better than people give him credit for. I think you have to kind of have a plan and work on him and grow him as a corner, because Florida State was just doing kind of whatever. He's an outside guy. He is not gonna have the best ball production. Not that guy. Drink
Chief.
like, yep, Chief. Born south of the Mason-Dixon. No,
Chief.
I love watching. Like, he's one of those guys that you just see and be like, all right, the overall product around him was so subpar, but he stood out, and he stood out like as the only one who looked competent. He allowed 17 catches on 33 targets this year, so like he did pretty well overall. Again, we're talking about a team that won 2 games last year.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with what happened with Florida State last year, to quote Charles Barkley, terrible, just terrible.
Just terrible. It was rough, but he was out there. He was doing his thing. I think he's got cleaner feet than what people, get. Again, I see a better athlete than I think what a lot of people see. I just think that he was in a situation that was really, really crappy. I think you can man him up on a lot of guys. I think he has a size. I think he plays his body positioning to me very similar to the Chiefs. He's going to be in that hip pocket the entire time. Even when somebody catches something on him, he's going to be there.
Well, it's going to hit him in the helmet a lot. Not that those frying pans he has for hands, but
yeah, yeah, needs to clean up a couple of things. Want to see him.
Are we a physical at the line of scrimmage kind of guy?
Very much. Now the one thing, and I think this comes with experience and maybe some strength, like pretty high missed tackle percentage, which not my favorite thing in the world. Not the highest in the class, but higher than I want, about 15%. But again,
You eventually start losing your will to tackle when you're playing for Florida State last year, so I can understand that a little bit too.
Yep, and probably getting put in some pretty not awesome positions to do a lot of tackling. I'm scrolling through and I'm looking for some other guys that we like Benjamin Morse isn't fair because he was hurt last year, but
All of last season.
Will Johnson, let's see what his missed tackle percentage. So Will Johnson was similar. Actually, his was higher. So like some other guys, it's a tough number for for cornerbacks, but I just think that he has a lot of upside. He's one of the younger players in this draft class. All the physical tools. Ran a little bit slow at his pro day. I'm okay with it. I see the game speed, and I think that you can work with it. So, also seemed like just a really high energy guy on a team that wasn't doing well. Like, just like to see a kid still try and still be. I think he's somebody who has probably a lot of character and a lot of leadership potential. So I factor that in too. So I think he could be a really good pro.
Nice.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, for that late of a round, for playing with that struggling of a university, that doesn't sound too terrible. Randy, who you got?
Guy number 5.
Yep.
I'm struggling on which position I'm going to go with here, so I'll give you guys a choice. It's either a wide receiver, a edge player, or a corner.
Well, didn't you already choose an edge and a corner? I guess wide receiver. Who are you thinking at wide receiver?
Right.
Did you already choose wide receiver?
Class.
All right.
Who you got?
All right, so wide receiver, I'm going to go with a guy that is going to be available late. Like, this is a Mr. Irrelevant pick.
Okay.
And that's going to be my slot stud, Efton Chisholm, from Eastern Washington University. Watching this kid is just a whole lot of fun. Like, he's not the biggest dude in the world. He's not the strongest dude in the world. He's not the fastest guy in the world. But you put him in a slot, and he makes people look silly. One of those guys that you can line him up in the backfield, move him around, motions. But a kid that can literally come in and play a ton of special teams, kick return, punt return, give you some razzle dazzle on the bottom side of your depth chart in the wide receiver room, and somebody who could probably turn out to be a whole lot more valuable than the draft pick that you're going to spend on him. So dig a little deeper, go watch some Efton Chisholm film, and you're just going to have fun watching a dude play football.
Godspeed on trying to find that wide receiver film, but good luck to you. No, I mean the only thing that would jump off to me is there's one guy that's already on this roster who's going to occupy a majority of the slot time on this roster, and that guy's name is Rashee Rice. So if you're planning on doing that, you may have a little bit of a conundrum, but with pick 250, whatever the hell at that
Yeah,
point,
251, 257. That's Efton's range. If not, he's going to be a UDFA.
which is fine. And that,
But
like I said, you can always add more depth, especially with Rice possibly being
yep.
unavailable for a few games at the beginning of this season coming up. So, like that, Garrett, wrap us up.
Okay, I'm going to also wrap up with a wide receiver. Even though I already chose Jalen Knoll earlier on, I'm going to go with another Jalen, actually. Go with Jalen Lane, who's a little bit interesting of a prospect. Obviously, out of Virginia Tech, he is more of a gadget guy. He's definitely going to be kind of more of a gadget guy. Just a little undersized. I believe he's like 5'9" and a half, like 195. So nothing crazy. He ran a 4.3, 4.3, 4.40. He's got punt return versatility. He kind of reminds me of DeAnthony Thomas a little bit. He's definitely a gadget type guy. A lot of like screens and just little backfield kind of things that he's done over at Virginia Tech. Not as polished of a receiver as necessarily, but I think a really useful weapon that I think Andy Reid has a very good track record and knows a lot of how to use a guy like that. I think he'll have a lot of versatility as far as special teams and what he can do on there. But this is a guy that's probably like 4th, 5th round in that kind of more of a developmental guy. He'll definitely be in a range that the Chiefs can take him. But yeah, very fun player to watch. He had a pretty good final season at Virginia Tech. Definitely not too bad against man coverage and press and all that stuff. He works through that stuff well enough. Definitely going to take a little bit more developing. But I mean, if you get him in a room with Xavier Worthy and some of those speed options that Kansas City has, I mean, I feel like he'll fit right in. He can give you some good change of pace snaps at wide receiver.
Nice. All right, so with that, we've given you probably 20-ish names. We've got some little bit of housekeeping stuff to do at the back end here. I want to say congratulations to the contest winner, Domo, for winning Corey's giveaway with us. Thank you for all of you guys who subscribed to the YouTube channel and shared it with the for the giveaway post to make sure you got that. So congrats on your prints that you'll be getting. They're awesome. I know they are. I've already seen them. So you'll enjoy that. Hope to do that next Monday, I believe, is the date and time we have nailed down. We will be doing our annual mock draft warfare. It's a thing we've done every year for the last several years. It's a lot of fun. We've had some success in predicting some of the guys that they've eventually taken. Garrett has, I believe, gotten one of each in the last 2 years.
I got 2 correct picks. Tom has 1. Yeah, I got Creed Humphrey and Sky Moore. Tom had Kingsley. So there was 1 year that nobody got one, but then
but we've done pretty well with getting at least the upper portion of that draft, at least having one guy in that grouping. We will have some guests be joining us. We already know for a fact our friends over at Kingdom Cast will be participating again this year, much like we had Country last year. Looking to maybe have more than just Country. I think we're going to have maybe 1 or 2 more of his guys. We've sent out some other invitations. We're seeing how that's going to work out. But if not, you'll just get to see a lot of our pretty faces along with the Kingdom Cast fellas. But we wanted to let you guys know about that. We'll probably be doing that one live, if I were just to guess.
Probably.
So that should that'll be some fun for everybody. You guys can hop in the comment sections and maybe I don't know, heck, maybe we'll do a commenters, listeners team as well during that little thing as a spinoff. We'll see how that works out. But that's one of the next things we got coming up. Then obviously the draft will be, I mean, it's like right here now. It's 10 days away. So Thursday night, the 24th in Green Bay will be the launch point for that. So it'll be a lot of fun. Like I said, the mock draft warfare is one of the more fun episodes I think that we do, especially in the off season corridor of Chief content and so on and so forth. But we appreciate you guys all hanging out with us, working through the off season with us. Like we said earlier, head over to Underdog, get hooked up with them so you can be ready for when the season starts. And in the meantime, get your little baseball, basketball, hockey fix in for that portion. Anybody got anything else for the evening before we get us all out of here?
Can't
Littering
Well,
and going once.
can't
Bueller,
think of
twice.
anything else. Yeah.
Bueller. All right.
pretty
Well,
good.
follow us on all of our social media platforms at Kingdom Says on YouTube as well. Make sure you hop over there and subscribe. We'll be having more contests, more giveaways, more fun stuff for you, and it's a good way for you guys to know when we're going live or doing that other stuff and content coming out there. Follow all of us at our different socials. You can see all of theirs on the screens. You got Arrowhead Tom, Chief of the North, Randy, and Garrett over there. It's Garrett720. Mine is really easy. It's K then16. With that said, everybody have a good evening, and we will see you next week.